My tattoo? Women in Special Forces units. The woman who fought with Geronimo. Ninja teachings and the temple. Hi everyone, I'm Angela Benedict. Thanks for listening to Podcast 5. Historically, warriors would seek their colors and protective symbols. Often this was done during Vision Quest. To go on Vision Quest is to go out onto the land, to be solitary for a period of days, and to receive visions. A warrior is seeking the colors he will use to paint his horse, his war shirt, and his shield. He will be told what his protectors are: lightning, eagle, bear, and he may hear special advice from his ancestors. Medicine people also carry shields, for the same reason, as protection in the work that they do. I have studied shamanism since I was 17. I have been out on Vision Quest many times. My medicine shield is tattooed on my back. Sometimes people have asked me why, as a Native American Indian woman, would I work with military, given all the bad history we have between us. Traditionally, when our warriors went into battle, they would first work with the shaman, the medicine people, to get ready. When they would return from battle, the medicine people would have made a camp for them outside the village. The warriors would not be allowed to go home until they had been put through clearing ceremonies. Even hundreds of years ago, we had an understanding that what was put on to get through war had to be taken back off in order to not affect those at home. For as long as there have been warriors, there has been someone like me helping them to get home. Do I still use these old ceremonies? Yes. In fact, in the program that I created to fill a training gap being left by the U.S. military to counter combat stress, I incorporated an exercise based on one of our old clearing ceremonies. These old ideas are still needed, even though they can be presented in new ways. When I was in university getting my degree in history with a major in Native American Indian Studies, there was a lot of anger there. Oka was still fresh in people's minds, the Canadian military on Mohawk territory over a golf course. The gunfights in Akwesasne were taking place. Violence over fishing rights on the coast. It was the 1990s, and there was a lot going on in Indian country. Cultural appropriation was spoken about often. Members of the American Indian Movement, AIM, came from the States to speak at the university. We debated issues of non-native people being put through our ceremonies. Was this okay? Was this just another way to take what little native people felt they had left? I wasn't angry. I took a different viewpoint. In our teachings, it doesn't say that those of us who hold knowledge are to keep it to ourselves. We have to tell. It's how understanding is created. I thought, isn't it amazing that after all that has happened, over the hundreds of years since this relationship between Indian and newcomers began, all the bad history, all the bloodshed, all that has been taken, all that has been lost through disease and war and death, that still there are people who want to learn from us because they realize we still know. Everyone comes from their own special place, with their own languages, stories, ways of doing things, but many people have been cut off from their own places and ways of knowing. They are seeking ways back to themselves. I have always been very proud that we have maintained enough of our ways that people can use us as portals, entry points into different and valuable ways of seeing the world, the earth, the multiverse, and most importantly themselves as part of all that is. On my father's side of the family, there is a huge multi-generational military legacy. On my mother's side, a very strong warrior society. I have always understood myself in relation to being Native, but there has always been a strong pull to the military as well. I enlisted twice. Fate intervened each time. In Canada, November 11th is called Remembrance Day. In the States, it's called Veterans Day. On this day, all the kids will be pulled out of school and walk to the cenotaph or war memorial. Every town and little village has one. Members of the Legion will be there with other veterans. Wreaths will be laid, speeches made. A trumpeter will play the last post. Even as a little girl, the last post evoked a very strong reaction in me. To this day, it can make me instantly emotional. I can stand at any war memorial anywhere and not need to know any of the names and just sob. I have always been aware of the loss that comes with war. I don't know how I knew it, but I've known many things in my life before being told. I arrived with a lot of prior understanding. Women in Special Forces units. This is a really interesting topic, and there's lots of debate about this, heated at times debate. Topics like this bring out the true colors in some people, and unfortunately that means the misogynistic attitudes of some. There are, I think, some practical reasons why this is a tricky topic. First, this is a much bigger issue than putting women on Special Forces teams. It is the latest evolution of an old conversation. Should women be part of Special Forces? Should women be in combat? Should women be in the military? Women have always had some role to play in war, normally as healers or spies. There have always been women who fought as warriors, who were leaders. They are rare, but they have existed over time. The fact that so many women are actively in the military and in increasingly combat-oriented roles is still a really new aspect of war. The Russians were the first to integrate female combat units in the First World War. In the Second World War, British and German women served in combat roles and were widely accepted, but contained to roles where there was little chance of them being captured. The Russians, then Soviets, in World War II, had all-female sniper units and female fighter pilots. The U.S. has the largest female military personnel demographic, but is still reluctant to open all combat roles. This has been proposed to be done this year in 2016. This likely has to do with the fact that cuts continue to be made to the military, recruiting is down, retention is a problem, with 36% of all new soldiers not completing their first term, and many exiting from many areas of service, including Special Forces. Force strength is an issue, as I discussed in Podcast 4. However, back to women in Special Forces units. I believe that the main criticism I have heard from experts, including former Special Forces operators, is true and should be listened to. That is that men and women's bodies are different. We perform physical tasks differently. Even great women athletes may not be able to complete the same physically grueling tasks that men can. This is a real, practical consideration that has to be dealt with realistically. Are we at a time when our technology is advanced enough that we can support women, and for that matter, smaller, more agile men, in performing the needed tasks? That would change the dynamic of what these teams are normally used for considerably. Operations are increasingly complex. Men and women don't perceive things the same way. Forever, it seems, that difference was seen to be a problem, a deficiency. If you are looking at a complex problem, you want to have various viewpoints to get the most comprehensive understanding of the issues. Are we at a time when we can see that difference as a strategic advantage? At its core, the issue of women in Special Forces units can be broken down to relationships. Equality, collaboration, how we work together, what new resources can be leveraged. The whole issue brings up the ideas we hold about women's place and challenges the sanctity of the elite warrior's place. How would the role of Special Forces teams change? How would tasking change? How would this be handled? We don't know what we don't know at this point because it's never been done before. We as humans always rail against significant change. This would be huge change, with a ripple effect across the entire military. Technological change is welcome in the military. Operational, organizational, cultural change is not. This ultimately is a culture shift that has operational implications that we can't even foresee at this point. But I'm not sure anyone is really trying to sort out what the implications would be and how Special Forces would evolve. It is easier to not open this can of worms than try to predict how the ripples would change the fabric of the military. My prediction is that women will end up serving in a variety of combat roles successfully, and we will utilize our technological acumen to make that happen. Given the issues the military has with personnel, I don't think it has a choice but to integrate women across the board even though that will absolutely create massive resistance, complaint, and change. How does that shake out? I think the best people to help sort that out are special forces operators now, who have the boots on the ground perspective and can best direct what changes can be made, how they can be made, and how to successfully phase in this change. Placing quotas or forcing integration without special forces being on board will be disastrous on all levels. This has to be a collaborative effort, so as many mistakes as possible are avoided and personnel are not unnecessarily injured. One of the best enemies the U.S. military ever faced was the Apache. I say the best enemy because many military personnel from that period have recorded how impressed they were with the fighting spirit and ability of the Apache, who were the last to surrender to the U.S. government during the process of forced containment called the reservation system. The Apache fought until their numbers were nearly decimated, especially the group who were led by Geronimo. Geronimo, of course, is incredibly famous. His group of Chiricahua Apache were captured, held as prisoners of war in Florida, moved to Alabama, then put on a reservation in Oklahoma. He died of pneumonia. Some say he died of a broken heart. Someone not so famous was Geronimo's secret weapon, Losin. I was always fascinated by Losin, as she was the epitome to me of a Native woman warrior. She was a gifted healer and a gifted fighter. She could ride and shoot as well as any man. She was an expert tracker. She cared for the sick and wounded, but her special gift was in her hands. She could find the enemy with exacting precision by holding her hands up like radar and turning her body. And when she felt a tingling sensation in her hands, that would always, without fail, indicate the direction of the enemy. Geronimo was a brilliant fighter and tactician. Losin was the equivalent of modern-day surveillance systems. Without her, he would have been blind. History, his story, has always left people out. The wrong color, the wrong gender. Enemies have had more page space than women often in the telling of our histories. Because history has typically been written by men who did not value women's contributions. There are very likely incredible feats of courage and brilliance we don't know about because they were discarded by narrow minds. Losin has always been a hero of mine. She reminds me to use all of my skills, to be all I can be. Ninja teachings. There is another tradition that has always directed my thinking, my philosophy, martial arts. I think that martial arts in its totality, the fighting and healing arts, meditation and mental mastery, and Bushido, warrior code, are the most comprehensive system we have to become a complete person. Losin had an incredible ability to discern. She read her environment at a level others could not. In martial arts, we are given opportunities to develop similar skills. To solve problems, we must be able to discern. To heal, we must be able to discern, to analyze, to anticipate an opponent's moves. We must develop this capacity. We have to recognize there is a problem in order to solve it. We have to recognize the true aspects of the problem, as they are not always what they appear to be. In fighting, we don't only discern at the beginning, but must be in a constant flow state of discernment until the conflict is over, as the problem continues to shift and morph and new problems emerge. This flow state must be disruptive. Disruptive behavior is surprising, unexpected, it's full of change. In this situation, we value change. In most other circumstances, we do not value change, we avoid it. But to solve problems, innately, we must be disruptive. Women in the military, disruptive. To further evolve the institution of the military so it will survive and grow, requires further disruption. People who understand the fighting arts well do not fight against the attacker. They allow their attacker to create their own defeat. This requires high levels of discernment, awareness, and calm. Calm in fighting? Yes, calm, centered thinking wins. When we can change and adapt to any situation, any interruption to our environment, any unexpected problem, we can turn it to our advantage. There is an advantage in every perceived problem. I look forward to watching how the perceived problem of women in special forces plays out and creates a whole new kind of fighting. Visualizations. One of the most powerful aspects of my teaching, both that has been passed down to me and that I pass on to others, is that of visualization. I have learned over the years that most people are not taught how to do this properly, and understandably do not grasp how it can help them achieve incredible results. However, when done correctly, this is a powerful tool. Visualization is used to create harmony between the conscious and subconscious minds. Conscious mind creates the image and directs much of the purpose for the visualization. Emotion created by the image is conveyed to the subconscious mind, whose language is feeling. What you feel about the image you see is more important than the image itself, as the subconscious mind is many times larger and more powerful than the conscious mind. In this particular visualization, I will create a situation where you can work on one of the most challenging issues consistently that I see in people. I'm not going to tell you what it is, and will be interested to see what you think it is in your comments. I don't want to lead you to a conclusion just yet, but enjoy the experience and convey some really key things to your subconscious that will help you if you do this and other visualizations that convey the same key things regularly. It is the feeling that makes it all work. To begin this visualization, sit or lie comfortably. I suggest lying down as it creates the least amount of resistance, which is a feeling, and the most relaxation, also a feeling. Don't fall asleep, but allow yourself to become as relaxed as possible. Allow your breathing to slow slightly and become deeper and more relaxed. More from your belly, as if you are in a deep sleep. Close your eyes and begin to use your imagination, the vital aspect in visualization. Imagine you are walking through the woods. You see the path in front of you, and there are tall trees on either side. The temperature of this place is perfect for you. You feel at home, comfortable, safe, interested in your surroundings. You feel the path under your feet. The light through the trees is beautiful, and you feel peaceful in this place. You can feel the energy of the earth under your feet and from the trees around you. Birds add to the subtle wood noises, and the wind gently rustles the leaves. You enjoy this path. It feels good being here. You see the trees are ending. There is a clearing ahead. Coming out into a grassy field, you see a beautiful lake to your right. A deep forest surrounds the lake, which is calm and glassy, the deep green of the trees reflected in the mirror surface. There's a deep sense of calm here. Breathe in this peace. Breathe in this peace. You continue to walk along the path and come to a place where the wild green of the field becomes a precisely organized garden with shrubs that are carefully pruned, flowers of amazing colors, and stone sculptures that seem very old. You begin to realize that everything you can see now is perfectly cared for, formed, molded into beauty. This place has intense beauty and is cared for. Every blade of grass, every piece of carved stone, Every blossom is valued. Breathe in this beauty. Breathe in this beauty. The path is now paved in flat, smooth stones. You feel their solidness under your feet. Looking around, you see buildings now, multi-leveled with steep roofs and wide curved eaves like pagodas. Brightly colored, wooden, carefully constructed, and beautiful, just like everything else you can see. You begin to realize you are in a special place, an old place. There is wisdom here. Ahead you see a group of men. You realize they are waiting for you. You walk toward them. Their highly polished, plated armor glints in the sunlight. Every piece is constructed, polished to perfection, adorned with their symbols and crests. The fabric of their clothes perfectly folded underneath. The colors are deep and rich. They stand arms folded and their expressions are serious, unreadable. Long swords hang at their sides. These are samurai. One of the men sits at a stone table on a bench. The facing bench is vacant and he gestures for you to sit down. You are intimidated by these men and wonder why they are here with you. But you realize something else. Everything in this place is theirs, and everything here is taken care of. Everything you can see is crafted, built, nurtured to perfection, valued. And you begin to understand that if you are here with them, you will be valued as well. Breathe in this feeling of being valued. Breathe in valued. The man across the table smiles at you as you come to this new understanding. He tells you without words that you are here to learn. They are here as your teachers. You can ask anything at any time. You feel the privilege of this. And also feel that the answers you get may be very direct, wise, and surprisingly accurate. The man smiles again as you understand. Breathe in this privilege. Breathe in feeling that valued. With a nod of his head, he says, "Follow me." You follow along behind him and the others behind you. Nervously you watch them, but come to understand that they are not your friends, but they are not going to harm you. They are teachers and must be respected. Breathe in this feeling of respect. Breathe in respect. Through the garden you walk and begin to hear a clicking, snapping sound like wood hitting wood. To your left, you see the temple. The architecture is awe-inspiring, and you look up at the pillars and lintels, the wood shining with oil and age, the steep roof. The eaves extend over a wide veranda that surrounds the building. This is an ancient place. You wonder if you can go in. To your right, where the sound you heard is coming from, you turn your attention to the training yard. Here hours of each day are spent practicing fighting arts. Wooden training swords are clashing in intense but closely monitored sparring matches. Instructors stop and correct, demonstrate, and then watch again as their pupils and peers refine technique after technique. Your guide gestures for you to go inside the temple. You'd rather go watch the sparring, but he looks sternly at you and waves towards the steps. You wonder why you feel reluctant to go in. He follows you up the wooden steps onto the veranda to the door. Here you cross the threshold and enter. The temple is a large room with small carved benches arranged in rows. He motions for you to sit down on a bench. At the front of the room is a large statue of Buddha. Your guide sits beside you. You feel him talking to you. Everyone finds it hard to sit in the temple at first, he says. There are no distractions here. Outside there are. You can spend years in the training yard and perfect technique. Here, you become yourself. This is also training. Both are difficult. Both must lead to perfection. You change your inner landscape piece by piece to what you think perfection is, harmony is, to what your best self is. We don't sit here looking at Buddha to become Buddha. Buddha reminds us to find the path to ourselves, and that this path is found within, in our own stillness, in the depths of us, on the paths that sometimes we're afraid to follow. Here we master ourselves. Then we go outside and master our weapons. We need both kinds of training. In the temple, you can ask any question, and an answer will always come. Sometimes right away. Sometimes it comes later. It always comes when you are ready to have it. Not always ready to hear it, but ready to own it. You are ready to do important work to become your best self. It is why you are here. In the quiet that follows, you breathe in the sanctity of this place, the importance of his words. You feel the honor of sitting where so many warriors have sat before you, doing the same work to find themselves, the same work to make themselves better. He leaves you alone. You breathe. You breathe in the beauty. You breathe in the sacredness. You breathe in the understanding that you are valued here. You are a student of an ancient way of being. You breathe in the honor and the knowledge of this place. Breathe. 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 You may not feel ready or worthy, but remember that everything here is nurtured into a greatness that it was not before these men took care of it. They will take care of you and guide you to a version of you that you have never seen before. You stand. You know you can come back to the temple anytime you wish. You walk to the door and step over the threshold onto the veranda. Your guides are all busy with students, but several look at you and wave as if they know you will be back again soon for more teachings. You walk back into the garden, breathing in its lushness, its beauty, down to the lake, staying on the path, feeling the difference between the stones, now the dirt under your feet. You see the darkness of the trees ahead. You breathe in a sense of wonder and achievement that you have been to an incredible place and you are welcome to return anytime. You continue to walk through the trees, feeling content and calm, happy even. In your mind, you relax further and let it all fade to darkness. Warm, comforting darkness. Breathe in safe. Breathe in valued. Breathe in accomplishment. Breathe. 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 When you are ready, open your eyes. Take the path to the temple often and ask your questions. Feel valued. Learn from the masters. Let this process change your life. Till next time, peace out.